wherever you're viewing from. This is Laura Thompson with TAAN TV, the African American Network, where we have a local feel with the global reach, and you're tuned into It's History Month. And so we have the distinct pleasure of speaking with a phenomenal woman, but I have a few more names for her besides phenomenal, because when I think about her, I think about down to earth. I think about cool. She's a cool doctor, Dr. Doshie Piper. I think about uh, just laid back, but I also think about brilliant, and I think about problem solver. She's just a bundle of just multiple faceted talents. And so I am so proud of you, and I'm proud to have you on the show to talk about a little bit of your journey to where you are now. So,
Okay.
but before we get started with the interview, I would like for you to just tell us a little bit of biographical information about you, like where you're from, what you do, why you do it, all of those good things.
All right. Well, like Laura said, I am Dr. Doshie Piper. I was born in Houston and I was raised in New, a suburb of New Orleans
Okay.
slash New Orleans.
Okay.
My father's from Houston and my mother's from Louisiana, New Orleans to be specific. So folks who are from New Orleans, they don't say they're from Louisiana. They say they're from New
New Orleans.
Orleans.
Okay. All
So I
right.
grew up in New Orleans. I spent my early childhood and elementary school years in New Orleans, and then about a year in Georgia, Atlanta. My father got a job in Atlanta, and then we moved back to Houston um, when I was entering middle school because my paternal grandfather became ill, and my father has three sisters, and they said, "Well, we're gonna get your son to take care of you." so, so he did what any son would do, and he relocated his family to Houston, Texas. And I
Okay.
did my middle school and high school years in Houston. And I started college in Texas at Stephen F. Austin, and then I transferred to Texas Southern.
Okay.
Then I landed in Cincinnati at the University of Cincinnati. And that's where I did my bachelor's and my master's degree. And I returned to Texas to do my PhD at Prairie View A&M University.
Wow. So
And
you've been, so you have been a national traveler, probably international.
yeah.
Um, so so the premise of this is it's Women's History Month, but we want to interview women and learn a little bit about their history and their journey and some things that you know we may not know about you.
Okay.
A lot of people see Doshie Piper or Dr. Doshie Piper. They might see her around the community, and some see her on campus because she's an associate professor at University of Incarnate Word. Some might see her in a T-shirt and sneakers and jeans, working with the MLK Commission
Right.
or some projects out in the community. But we might say, well, who is Dr. Doshie Piper and what does she do? Some people know her for different things. And so we want to kind of break down some of the things that you do so that people can understand the whole Dr. Doshie Piper. And so,
Yeah. I think that's a loaded question.
well,
However,
that's
I,
not
you
really a question. It's just kind of just
a
like an
description,
overview.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think before I'm anything else, I'm a servant of God.
Okay.
And I think that because I am drawn to service, so, serving God the Most High, I have to serve man,
Hmm.
humans in order to do that. And so part of what I do in my professional capacity, I am trying to make the criminal legal system leave it better than what I found it.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, it's in whichever way I can. So if it's educating students to go and police differently, engage in procedural justice or community justice
Hmm.
over retributive justice,
Wow.
then I'm working towards that goal. If it is producing probation, parole officers, juvenile justice workers, whether they are investigators for CPS or they're juvenile probation officers, and they treat a child or a probationer or parolee with loving kindness and care, still while doing their job.
Mhm.
I gotta write you up. I have to, it's consequences when you don't follow the rules or do what it is that you're supposed to do. But I'm not gonna violate you or revoke your probation, parole, or terminate your parental rights, take your children from you,
Wow.
work with you.
Wow. So that's phenomenal, and that's rare. And we're fortunate to have you in a position to um, educate people and guide them to do the right thing when they're dealing with someone's lives,
Yeah.
even if they have made some mistakes or committed some crimes. It's still you're teaching people to treat others humane, basically regardless of what they've done. Not to say that they don't have consequences for their actions, but that's phenomenal. I've never really heard anybody say that.
Yeah,
Uh,
Laura, you can arrest someone without like stripping them of their dignity.
mhm.
You really can. This is the law you broke, and despite the reason, I have to arrest you, and this is how this is going to play out.
Wow. So you're you practice criminology, or your major was criminology. So how?
Yeah. So at the University of Cincinnati, my undergraduate major was criminal justice with a focus on addiction studies. So I've always been on the back end of the criminal justice system,
Okay.
and you know dealing with people who are navigating reentry, who are navigating community correctional systems, whether that's pretrial services, probation, parole, most oftentimes through substance abuse treatment, because I am a licensed chemical dependency counselor. So I did that for, I don't know, maybe about 10 years or so, 13 years. And I wound up getting a job in Ohio as this gender responsive grant coordinator.
Hmm.
And what I did was I researched and evaluated how do we implement gender specific and gender responsive services for females, because the services for men are massive and the services for women
Hmm.
are incremental.
Wow.
So, and then after I did that, I was like, I could have did this for myself and had a PhD. So I did. I
Wow.
went back to school when I finished that project.
Wow. So you're an active mom.
Yes.
Yes, you're raising your daughter to be a a strong, independent young lady, but at the same time to be active in the community, and you're teaching her how to serve. So why is that important? As a woman in your position, to guide your daughter in a direction that is positive and serves the community.
I think it's all too convenient for people to get comfortable in privilege or see their position in life
Mhm.
as a privilege. And I don't ever want Jade, that's my daughter's name. I know you know her name, Laura.
Right.
But for the viewers, I don't ever want her to think, feel, or believe that you are entitled to the life that you have. You have to work for the life that you have. You have to create the life that you want to have. And the only way to do that is to be in community. You can't live in isolation. God didn't create us to be, isolated. He made Adam, and then he made a companion. He made Eve. And so we are social beings that depend on companionship and community. And I think we thrive best in community.
Well, I think so. So, so, so you are an associate professor.
Correct.
so, so what do you teach there?
So I teach criminal justice at the University of the Incarnate Word. This semester, I am teaching Introduction to Criminal Justice. I'm teaching victimology and drugs and crime.
Mm,
And my drugs and crime, I'm sorry, my phone is vibrating. I silenced it, but I didn't turn the vibrate off.
okay, that's
My
okay.
drugs and crime class is a combination of students from all across campus. So I have criminal justice students who are figuring out how drugs have been criminalized in society. I have psychology students that are trying to reconcile, do we treat substance abuse or do we punish substance
Wow,
abuse? I also have students in that class who are medical students. So they were direct admits to UIW's medical school. So they do their undergraduate and then they go into the medical school. And so I have medical students, I have pharmacy students, because they need to know the
wow,
pharmacological impact of substances. So in that class, I have about 42 students, a combination of students.
wow. So that's awesome. So that part of crime or what people are punished for, it affects a lot of different industries and a lot of different aspects of life. It seems like. So wow. So that's phenomenal. I had no idea of
Mhm.
what you taught. I just knew that you were an instructor or an associate professor,
Yeah.
but I didn't know. So that's good information to know.
Thank you.
So the other thing that you do a lot of times when I call you, um, you're always traveling. So so what aspect of your profession or business requires you to travel so much?
So quite a bit of it. So well, first, my daughter is a part of a club, a national club volleyball team,
Okay.
and this is actually travel season for club volleyball. So Thursday, we are headed to Spokane,
Oh,
Washington,
okay.
for the Northwest Pacific qualifier. I think that's the name of the tournament we're going to. And then we have a Northeast qualifier in Philadelphia. And then we have the Red Rock Rave national qualifier in Nevada. So I have that. So my daughter's sports travel, but also I attend professional conferences. I do presentations in addition to, having a background in substance abuse treatment. I am a restorative justice practitioner. And so, I engage in conflict resolution with typically it's with like in governmental capacities. So I'm not sure if you remember our former district attorney, Nico LaHood.
Yes.
Nico LaHood was arrested for some drug related offenses. I mean, folks can look up his arrest record and all of those things. He does not have a criminal conviction because his father, who was an attorney, and I don't know if he was an attorney or a judge at the time back in the 90s when Nico or former DA LaHood got in trouble. but he advocated for a restorative option for him.
Hmm.
And so, the victim and the offender and the community came up with an agreement. Former DA LaHood fulfilled that agreement, and he doesn't have a criminal conviction as a
Wow. Awesome.
result of that restorative justice practice that he had available to him. So I teach folks how to implement these practices, whether it's a peacemaking circle or a conference or panels.
Hmm. Wow. So is that restorative justice? Is that open to any citizen? And if it is, how do they find out about it?
So you have to ask for it when you are facing consequences. I do know that our current DA utilizes restorative options much more than our former DA did, even though he was a recipient of restorative initiatives, restorative practices, a restorative outcome. But I know that our current DA, Joe Gonzalez, uses it a lot, especially in misdemeanor cases. I know folks who are navigating misdemeanor cases who are going through the public defender's office. They have that. Also, you can go with civil cases. You can use the Bexar County Dispute Resolution
Hmm.
Center to resolve conflicts. And so I've recommended or referred folks who are facing eviction to try to go through the Bexar County dispute resolution. And we have some comments here.
Hmm.
So I think even Steven said that when substance abuse has a black face on it, they punish substance abuse. When substance abuse has a white face on it, they treat it. And for the most, by and large, that's an accurate statement. Black and brown people are penalized, punished, sentenced to confinement, jail, or incarceration or prison, um, 3 to 7 times higher than their white counterparts. Same substance, same use history, same everything. They will get their sentence will be 3 to 7 times harsher than a white person in the same situation.
So could it, and I believe that to be true. Um, so, but could it be that uh, we are unaware that that service is available? I know you said you have to ask for it, but if if people are unaware of it, do you think that that may have something to do with the?
So I think it's a couple of things, Laura. I think that first of all, you can't plea. Like if you're going to request a restorative option, you really have to go through. I mean, it could be a part of the plea agreement, but you have to have paid counsel or you
Mm,
have to have an attorney that's a part of that courtroom work group who
mm,
knows the judge, knows the prosecutor, and can use this as an option or recommend this as an alternative option to whatever they're thinking about, even if it is a part of a plea agreement. But we can't go in there ourselves trying to dispose of the case during our first appearance, and this happens quite frequently.
mm.
And so now we've pled guilty to possession of marijuana or controlled substance or paraphernalia, and we have 2 years probation when we could have asked for victim offender mediation. We could have asked for
Mm.
some kind of community reparative panel or option so we could repair the harms done, or a family group conferencing, like we can do conferencing with our family members. But we don't know that that's available. I mean, we can't advocate for that ourselves. It's better received if it comes from an attorney on our behalf.
Wow.
And
So,
most people can afford private attorneys.
wow. So we're learning more about Dr. Doshie Piper and what she does and how knowledgeable she is of the criminal justice system and just what her travel is all about. A lot of it is all about her daughter. She speaks at conferences, and um, I did a little snooping around, and then she sent me the video. She's been on stage to do a TED talk. So,
Yes.
so how did that come about? And what was your topic of discussion?
Yeah, so my dean here at UIW purchased a license from TED to do a series on revitalizing the core curriculum. And
Wow,
the core curriculum really has to do, or liberal arts education, which really is rooted and grounded in religion, philosophy, social sciences, psychology, sociology, if in my case, criminal justice, political science, history, the humanities, English. So he really wanted to talk about how do we revitalize the core with all of these professional schools popping up. Everybody wants to be a dentist, be a pharmacist, be a doctor, even be a lawyer. um, and that's like a professional school, but what makes you good in any of those professions? Usually it's the core curriculum that you get in your undergraduate curriculum. So I was like, well, he asked me, he was like, you want to do a TED talk? I was like, I don't know.
what?
and and then I thought about some of the internal struggles that we have here at UIW and how a lot of students come to me when they face injustices or discrimination, and just how I advise them and how students have started organizations on social justice and on LGBTQ alliances, and how we have strengthened our African student organization. And then I got to thinking about how we treat adjunct faculty when a large percentage, I used to know the quantity, but I can't call it off right now, of our adjunct population, of our teaching population are adjunct faculty. They go from university to university, school to school, just piecing together, incomes to pay their bills, pay their car note, feed their families. And then we charge them to park on campus and just a whole
Wow,
bunch of other things. And how we really need to take a page out of the liberal arts education and look at how we interact with our adjunct faculty here at our university, and see if we can do better, so we can really fulfill the mission of the Sisters of Charity of the Incarnate Word, the CCVI sisters who founded UIW.
wow. So you are a natural born advocate, I think, and it goes beyond your profession. So I wanted to talk a little bit about your community work
Okay.
and your advocacy there, and you seem to be involved in some political advocacy. You're just an advocate, and people are drawn to you or to kind of get help on certain issues that they might be struggling with. So what do you think that comes from? And talk about some of your community advocacy.
So I really think it comes from the way that I was raised, like what the ingredients that my parents and my aunts and uncles put in me. Like I grew up listening to and watching my parents and my aunts navigate the Black Panther Party.
Wow.
So, I just feel like and then once that was dismantled, and when my aunt passed away, and then some of the other founders of the New Orleans chapter of the Black Panther Party began to die, pass away. And really, and I'm not going to say that chapter is dead, but it became inactive. And then she got involved in, or started, this other organization called Three. And these were about the three men who were on death row in Angola, really for committing political crimes, because they were part of the Black Panther Party, but
Hmm.
they were actually convicted and put on death row for killing a police officer during a prison riot. And so, like, she wanted to expose the truths about that. So I think that just being around that kind of organizing and activism,
Wow. Wow.
encouraged me to, dip my toes in in that pond.
Wow. So, and you're very knowledgeable too. Um, you're a natural problem solver. I know I've called and said blah 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 blah
Mhm.
blah, and you'll say, "Well, let me think about it," and then you strategize of how you're gonna help get the problem solved. So where does that come from? You think is that part of your background as far as the your family or the Black parents?
I don't know where that comes from. I just think that's the analytical part of me. And I think that that's why I did well in graduate school, because, the numbers, the putting things together, the probabilities and the statistics and the percentages and the ratios and the this and the that, it didn't scare me off. Like, I wasn't fearful of it. I have a lot of students who do independent studies with me for statistics because they're terrified of statistics. And I'm like, it's just numbers.
That's,
And I think that just that strategizing, and but it also, I think it does come from, my upbringing as well. And I think, if I had to attribute it to someone in my background, it would have to be my grandmothers, both my maternal and my paternal grandmothers, who, were pillars in their community and would, like, figure out the church budget so the church wouldn't have to close its doors. Like,
mhm,
I just kind of watching these women
mhm.
engage in organizations in this way. And, my father's mother, who passed away in December, she started the Yorkdale. She was one of the founding members of the Yorkdale Civic Club, because
Wow,
they had issues in her community that she needed resolved. And she knew that the way to resolve these issues is through a collective force impact. Like, if we come together and create something, they'll respond.
wow. So what's amazing about you too is that you communicate with what I've seen you communicate with people on all levels. You know, people on the ground, in the community. You know, on the political level. You know, on the educational level. You just have this ability to communicate with all these different people, but you're kind of the same. It's just that you use different knowledge and different approaches for these different groups of people. And so, you know, I don't know, you know, where that comes from, but it's amazing to just to see you work.
Thank you. Yeah.
So, so I know you're involved with the heavily with the MLK Commission, and so tell me a little bit about that experience and if you can, you know, what's next.
So I'll start with what's next. Of course, as a commission, there's a plan in place, but like the plan can't be revealed or unfolded because we don't know who the next council person for District 2 is going to be. If Jayla McKee Rodriguez stays in that seat, then the plan that is in place will come to pass. But on another note, like I've been a part of this commission now probably, I don't know if it's 5 years, 7 years. It gets cloudy up in there. So I started as a member of the fundraising committee when Reverend Jeffrey Gardner was the chair of the fundraising committee. And then I transitioned into the secretary role and I served in that capacity. And I've been the vice chair now for, I don't know, 3 or 4 years. And I've seen like the commission go from pre-COVID to like not doing a march at all, doing virtual events, to, you know, coming back and getting more money from the city to do the work of the commission. You know, we were getting $100,000, and I think now we are upwards to $300,000 from the city of San Antonio, including resources. And so I think that, you know, that is a positive change and a much needed change. You really can't do much these days with $100,000.
Mm-mm.
And
Not
so
at all.
to be able to put together the amount of events we do in a weekend span, you know, we do the Black Baptist Ministers Union. They start us off with a worship service, and then we go into the youth events, and then we go into the interfaith service, and then we go into the reflang, and then we have all of the day of events, and we have our scholarship. Like we do all of these events to raise scholarship funds. And I see one of my commissioners is watching, and she's putting comments in the comment section. Dr. Juanita Mercer, who is the scholarship committee chair this year, and so we're evaluating scholarships right now, and we'll have a community celebration on, I want to say May 7th. If I'm wrong, y'all correct me. But we are having a dinner, and it is to honor the public award winners. It is to thank our sponsors and honor them, and it's to acknowledge and honor the scholarship recipients.
Wow. So you're just doing phenomenal
Get
work.
y'all tickets,
Uh,
get y'all tickets, discount.
so
Or
Juanita,
sponsor a table. May 8th. May 8th is the
right?
event. I said May 7th, but the date is May 8th.
Wow. So that's just, the phenomenal work that you do. I don't know, you know, when you have time to do all this. But whenever I call you, you answer and you're calm, like, I'm the only person in the world at that second, at that moment. So you've learned to, at least on the outside looking in, you've learned to balance all of your great responsibilities, and we appreciate and honor you
Thank
for all
you.
of the things that you've done and that you continue to do. I'm a living history person, and so I like to capture history in the making.
Yes.
And so I like for people to be able to verbalize and tell their own stories, opposed to waiting years, after you're gone away, for somebody to tell a story that may or may not be your actual story. So we appreciate you, commend you, and think that you are a phenomenal, phenomenal, amazing, incomparable woman. And
Thank you.
keep up the good work and continued success to you. So you've been tuned into It's Women's History Month on TAAN TV, the African American Network, where we have a local feel with a global reach. And we appreciate you, Dr. Doshie Piper. Thank you
Yes.
for your
You're
time.
welcome. And there's some comments in the chat, and so I'll respond to these comments, and after we close out.
Okay, all right. Well,
Right.
Juanita Mercer and even Stephen are making a lot of comments
Yes.
on here. So we
Dr.
appreciate y'all
Mercer, that's
tuning
my
in.
girl.
All right. So we appreciate y'all tuning in to TAAN TV. It's Women's History Month, and continue to enjoy it. We got a few more days
Yes.
before the end of the month. Ciao. Thank you, Doshie.
You're welcome.
All righty. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.